Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to tie the multi-rig. I just wanted to show you a few of the products required to make this rig. You need a good set of scissors. These are the Corda razor blades. I'm going to be using a semi-stiff end trap 20 pound for the rig itself. I find it works a little bit better for holding the loop at the top. Second, we need a trusty lighter. This is the Steelers lighter, of course, since I'm from Pennsylvania. We will need some rig rings. I prefer to use the large rig rings because they're a little bit easier to tie on the floss with. Of course, you're going to need bait floss. This will hold your pop-up in place. The way I do mine is a little bit different, so we'll need some hair stops. This will allow you to change out your rigs a lot easier later on. We need a stripper tool. This will pull back the coating on that braid, give us a hinged effect. We need some putty. This is the dark matter. I'm using gravel brown because it matches my bottom better. If you have a weedy situation, I'd recommend doing the green. For this particular video, I'm using a crank choddy hook. You can use the regular choddy if you so please, but I found that the crank choddy seems to hook a little bit better, so I've been using those, size 4. Also, I'm using the anti-tangle sleeves. I do hook on PVA on the front of this rig, but I find that this kicks the rig away from the lead so it doesn't tangle. And also we need, you can use either one, either the heavy needle or the splicing needle. I like using the splicing needle for the pop-up itself. You don't put too large of a hole in there, that way it doesn't strip out. You can use the heavy needle when you're just trying to loop your knots together. Makes it a little bit easier. And finally, my pop-up of choice so far this year has been the CC Moore Elite Golden Spice in 14 mil. Been landing a lot of large fish on there. Smell really good. And the fish like it also. So let's get started. Step 1 is we're going to take a section of the semi-stiff 20 pound. Go ahead and open this up here. And it's probably going to be about 12 to 14 inches. Just trying to find the end on here. Right there. And I know you can't see it on camera, but we're going to, like I said, pull off a length about 12 to 14 inches, somewhere around there. And go ahead and cut that. The next part is just like tying a hair rig. All you're going to do an overhand loop. I know a lot of people use the figure of 8 loop, but I prefer doing it overhand. You get a little bit less of a big knot. I like the knot to be a little bit smaller. It seems like everything works out better. Now this here is going to determine how high your pop-up is going to sit off the bottom. One big thing to remember is the multi-rig can be used for bottom baits, but I prefer to use it for pop-ups. So just think of how high you want this to be off the bottom. So in this case here, I shoot for about 3 inches. So we have our piece folded back. Just straighten that out a little bit, makes it easier. And I'm also going to need this is where I use my needle also. Let me take this out. It's just a little bit easier to fold back around. Alright, so back to where we were. Overhand loop. And try to get it closer to the end as possible. Usually I just do it this way. It's a lot easier than trying to mess around getting your fingers through there. And what happens is, you can see right here, we're trying to tease it down as far as we can to the left here. So you just kind of keep working it. You want to get as close as that you can, that way you're not going to be cutting off a lot of excess line. and just kind of tease it down slowly. A lot of times I'll pinch the end and just start to squeeze, tease it down a little bit more, and just keep repeating. Okay, so now we're good there, and just go ahead and pull tight. You can use the puller tool also, but I find this here is a little bit easier since you have a large knot. And we're going to trim off that little bit of excess we have right there. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to have the putty going over that shortly. So this is where we're at right now. Next step, we're going to need the stripper tool. Now what happens here is we're going to strip away right here, right below that overhand loop, and that's going to create the hinge effect. So from the back side of the stripper tool, put the line through. It'll be a little bit tricky because you have that knot in the back here. Get it right up to the knot, pull down on it, and start to strip back. Okay. Just a little bit more, I think. You're aiming for about 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Okay. Alright, so you can see there's enough trim back there. You have a nice flexible hinge now. Next step is the easy part. I'm actually going to turn this around because that's how I usually hold it. You're going to get a size 4 hook here. And the one thing I love about the multi-rig is every time you cast out, a lot of times you might ding it off the rock or something. Even though you can resharpen hooks, these are really easy to take on and off because of the way this rig is made. So all I did here was pinch the end of it. This is the trickiest part of this, is trying to get this through here. Now you can use a lower breaking strain, like a 15-pound, but I find the 20 works really good at holding the pop-up in place. It seems like when you use the 15, it kind of comes back down and pulls tight, whereas I want to kind of keep that loop, kind of like how a D-rig looks. So we're going to pull this up, and before we get too far, we have to get a large ring. So you can see where we're at right now. Have it up through the these also, with the Choddy hooks, they have the upturn eye. This is really important for this rig. I just think it works a little bit better than using a standard hook. This is also a little bit tricky because these are so small. Sometimes hard to get on there. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more cooperative in this video. So rig ring on my finger. Alright, first try, great. So we have our ring right here. Slid down the line, and all you're going to do now, slide it down and push the hook up through. Also make sure it's not twisted up here, that way there's no twist in it. That'll allow the rig to work a little bit better. All I'm going to do is pull back down, and you can see we have like a little D on top here. So that part's done for right now. That's how easy this rig is. Next step is we have our knot right here. I'm going to get some rig putty and fix that. That's going to actually pin it down and hold that rig to the bottom, because a lot of pop-ups are very buoyant. So right now we had our dark matter gravel brown. All I'm going to do is just take off a little bit. A little goes a long way. So you see I just have a little blob on my finger. Kind of work it a little bit. Okay, all we're going to do, go around that knot, and you're just kind of forming it around there. Work it in good, that way it sticks to the knot really well. And you want to test this in the water also to make sure this is holding your pop-up down. That actually amounts, probably need a hair more. I found that it needs a little bit larger than that there, just because I've tested this many times near the bank. Just kind of work that around real good, twist it around. I'm going to try to make it flat in the bottom because it is going to sit on the bottom. Alright, so that's what we're looking at right here. You can see there's enough coating stripped away that it'll make the hinge just like that. And it'll sit on the bottom. You can actually just press it like that too. That way you know it's going to sit real nice. And again, we still have that movement there, which we want. And just roll that so you have a real clean edge on it. Alright, so before we do the actual pop-up, this will actually, if you work this a few times like that, it'll actually straighten out really nice. One last step that I do personally is I add an anti-tangle sleeve on. And all this is going to do is kick away the rig away from the lead, just to ensure you're not going to tangle up, hence the name anti-tangle sleeve. I like the dark matter ones because they're heavier. And all you're going to do before you tie the knot is just put one on to the end, a small section first, and then all we're going to do is tie an overhand loop. And this one, just make a small one. And again, when you have your bait needles, it'll make it that much easier to make a small one. That way you're not wasting too much line. So take our needle, because that'd be too hard to get our finger right in there. Okay, and you can actually pull with this too. I have the pull tool, but like I said, I'm just doing this with the needle. And trim off that little bit of excess there. Doesn't have to be super close, but you want it close enough. And what happens is, once I use like a quick link to put this on all the time. So what I'm going to do is slide up that sleeve and it'll slide right over, as you can see here. And then that way it's going to actually slide over that quick link, so there's no chance it could ever come off. Now what happens is when you cast this out, this will actually kick it away. That way this rig goes down that way and it stays far away from your lead. Okay, so back to this part. Let's make sure that's looking good. Probably the most challenging part of doing this is getting your pop-up on. I see people tie them on various different ways. You can actually use, find them here. I guess I don't have them here. You actually have small rig rings you can actually put on beforehand. I personally like using bait floss, but I do it in a different way than most people do. And how I do mine is I'll take my bait floss, and all you're going to do is cut off a section. Just guess, and bait floss is cheap, so if you use extra, it's not going to hurt nothing. Cut off. And I actually get my hair stops ready right now. That way I'm ready to show you. Okay, got hair stop ready. All I'm going to do, and this is just me personally and how I do mine, there's various different ways. All I'm going to do an overhand loop, and this is where the splicing needle comes into play, because it's a real fine gauge and it's not going to put too big of a hole in your pop-up. So what I'm going to do, get my splicing needle out here, and I figure I'd get a new one on camera because my other ones are used and abused so much. I figure you probably want to look at something clean. And what we're going to do is take one of our pop-ups, Make sure the gate's back, that way it doesn't put too much of a hole into it. And put our pop-up through our pop-up. Okay, just slightly enough. Grab the floss, make sure it's exactly in half. Push on the pop-up. And what I'm going to do is attach the stop. It's kind of like doing it the opposite of what you do in a normal rig. Pull down tight. So that looks good. And all I'm going to do is a series of overhand loops, and that'll be enough to cinch. You can see how it is right now. A lot of times people go around the pop-up and pull tight. I find this way to be very easy. And once you actually have it on here, if you want to change out pop-ups, you just take off the stop, add a new pop-up. Now the tricky part is this right here. You have a large rig ring, and it's easier with the large because you'll actually be able to feed it through easier. So hopefully you can see that there. I fed it through the ring, and I pull the pop-up right down to the ring itself. And all you gotta do is a series of overhand loops. So we have our first one right there. Pulled tight to the ring. That's not going to hold it in place. So I usually do 3. I do an extra one. When you do an overhand loop like this, it's not really a knot, it's just holding it in place. Now once you do the second one, it's actually holding it in place. And I do a third one just to play it safe. The last thing you want is to have your rig out there for a long period of time and the pop-up came off. So I do 3. And when you look at this, I still have to trim it off, but it's tight down to the ring. Has good movement. And we go from there. Now this is personal preference. A lot of times I will cut it close and then take my lighter, just kind of blob it. So all I'm doing now is just cutting off the excess. And I still have just a little bit to blob. That way it really ensures it's not going to come off. Okay, get the other one here. Try not to burn your bait. Alright, and we're good. So, move some of this stuff out of the way. So right now, I'll stick it on the side here. So right now this is going to sit on the bottom just like this. Carp's going to come along, come down, get a real nice hook hold. And like I said, test it near the edge first. You want to make sure that putty is going to be enough to hold a pop-up down. These elite ones are really buoyant, so a lot of times I might actually have to add a little bit more on there. So hopefully this was easy to understand and learn from. Now the cool part, since I use the stop on top, all I have to do, if I want to change this out, I change my pop-ups after every fish I catch. I don't want any chance that it spooks them off. So take the stop out, pull off the pop-up. All I would do is get my needle, push it down through like so. And since we already have this tied on it, as long as you're using the same size pop-up, this is good. If not, just cut off your floss. So all we do is hook it on, pull down. You have to pull just a little tighter just so you can get the stop through. This is the tricky part here because since it was tight, it's good. Now grab it by the ring and just pull just so it sets itself down into the pop-up slightly. And that's it. Now the other thing is, let's say you dulled your hook, wherever the case may be. All you're going to do is feed this up like this, up through. That way you can take out take out the hook a little bit more. See how we made a really big loop now? Now I can just undo the hook. The ring comes off. I can take off the hook, put a new one back on. Before you loop it around, just put it through that ring you had. Make sure the pop-up's in the back here, it makes it a little bit easier. And then push down through and pull back down just till you have enough of the D in the front that the pop-up is free moving. And then you can change out your hooks as you need them also. So a lot of nice features about this rig. And once this end trap, you can actually heat up a little bit and it'll lay down really flat. So don't worry about that, even though it's showing. You know, once you heat it a little bit, it should be perfectly fine. I like the stiffer also because this little D right here, once you put it up through, it actually holds to the eye very nicely so that D doesn't pull down tight, because sometimes it'll pull down real tight like that. And I prefer to have that D a little larger like that. So again, it's just going to sit on the bottom like that, waiting for a big one. And I just had a 36.5 pound fish on this rig. Now a lot of times I'll take a PVA bag, or actually PVA mesh, and I just hook it on the end of it. And what happens is, it's going to weigh it down, but as soon as it melts, this will rise right back up over it. I like using pellets around this. I think it works really well. And that's it, the multi-rig. Hopefully that video was helpful for you. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the video. There's going to be a lot of other rig videos and bait videos, session videos, anything to do with carp fishing I provide. And thanks for watching. See you soon. Thank you again for watching another one of my videos. You'll see 2 videos below showing you how to make corn on the left and oats pack bait on the right. If you enjoyed this video, there's plenty more on my channel. Please hit subscribe on the right side of the screen, and anytime a new video comes out, you'll be the first to see it.